Regardless of demographic and whether you're a mentor or a mentee, mentorship programs accelerate your career. According to our research, employees with workplace mentors are promoted 5 times more often than their non-mentored peers, feel empowered by their relationships at a rate of 87%, are more confident in their abilities, that confidence, and are more likely to stay with their company. Retention and promotions increased from 15% to 38%.
Welcome to The Scaries, brought to you by Razor Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory here in Regina, and in each episode, we tackle the alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. And really, The Scaries is an opportunity to use our voices as women and supporters of women to make some real change. As always, this is for entertainment purposes only, and these views are just our own, and we could be sharing some content that could be triggering to you, so please just listen with caution.
As straight, cisgender, white, able-bodied settler women, we are very aware of our privilege, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
And why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman. Cheers!
Cheers!
Another week, another episode of The Scaries. And full disclosure, we did our interview segment of this a few days ago, and then it went very, 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 very long. So in the interview segment, we are drinking coffee because it was on the weekend and coffee was required. And now it's in the evening on a weekday. And so we have armed ourselves with Josh red wine, actually.
So good. If you haven't tried it, you can find it at like all the liquor stores, I'm assuming. Yeah. Obviously drink responsibly, make sure you're of age. Just those disclaimers, but yeah, so good.
It's really good. I also think I remember seeing so much about it because everyone was like, Josh, like it was just like such a funny name for wine, but yeah, real good. A real nice red. I think this is a Cabernet Sauv. So anyways, we're quite distinguished ladies this evening drinking wine.
Yes,
so anyways,
yes. And like Talitha said, this is a 2-parter episode because we had so much to talk about. And this is really like the deep nuts and bolts of what Razor's all about. So we had to break it into 2 episodes. So you'll see us wearing the same outfits for a couple episodes. So enjoy if you're watching this. If
you're watching, enjoy our fits.
Yeah,
they're really not that fancy. That might just entice you to come watch the YouTube anyways. Okay, so I know that we talk a lot about Raise Her Co., the company behind this podcast, but you might be wondering, what is it? I know that we kind of just like drop Raise Her Co. randomly, and if you're not an original Raise Her Co. person, you might be like, what the heck? So allow me to tell you the birth story of Raise Her Co. And because we're both moms and we are chatting with our moms in this episode and in the part 2, I figured a good old-fashioned birth story was in order. Who doesn't love a birth story? This one is far less messy, I would say,
than the true spirited birth story
than the real
most
ones. Yes. But Raise Her Co. was conceived on International Women's Day 2019. So she wasn't born until October 6th, 2019, but she was conceived. Love and devotion on March
Mutual
8th.
respect.
Mutual respect. We both consented. So the story behind it is Skylar was actually scrolling through Instagram, as you do, as one does, and found a quote that said, starting a girl gang of women aggressively supporting other women. Hands up if you want in, because if we get enough people, we are totally getting jackets, which we did. But she sent that to me and said something along the lines of, should we do this? There's something here. And immediately it was an immediate yes for me. And I can't remember if it was actually the next day or not, but I feel like it was the next day in this context of this story that we reached out to our moms after we had this like, yeah, let's do this. I think this is a really good idea. And we reached out to the moms and we were like, hey, do you want to do this thing with us? And if so, let's have a meeting in like a couple days and we'll chat about it. And of course, because they're our moms, they bluntly said yes. And here we are 5 years later. But what we first envisioned for Raise Her Co. and what it is today is actually entirely different. I mean, like, core values and everything are the same, but how we structured our business and what it looks like now is very, very different. We initially conceptualized a formalized mentorship program because we saw a need and kind of a hole in current opportunities that were available to women and gender nonconforming, gender diverse folks. But after some feedback and assessing the needs of the community, so we actually went to our community and we're like, what do you want? What do you need? Which I think any, marketer would say that's what you should do is ask. But we launched it as an overall community providing a variety of services. So mentorship is a really huge component of it, but we do a lot of different things as well. And we've morphed and changed over the last 5 years and have continued to respond to the needs of our community. So we've taken a lot more like advocacy as it seems to be necessary. And we take on a lot more of providing education as well. So what is the purpose of all of this, you ask?
Well, we don't just have one, we have several. There's actually 3 purposes. But to boil it down, we tie it all to our main vision, which is building communities rich in female leadership to empower future generations to do the same.
Precisely.
And so we do that through, I guess, 3 mission statements or purposes.
Yeah.
The first is to make leadership, skill building, and finding a mentor more accessible to all women from all backgrounds, career levels, ages, you name it. We found, and this is a lot of the reason why we thought this was going to be a mentorship program to begin with, is because we found there was a lot of our friends who maybe didn't grow up with built-in mentors like us or leaders like us. They had a hard time finding a female mentor. And so we don't want any barriers to your industry or to your lifestyle or to your background and career level to be on you to find a mentor or to build those leadership skills. So that's purpose number 1. The second is to redefine or change the perceptions about what a leader is. And we'll get into that in a little bit and even more in the next episode.
Yeah.
And the third is just generally advocating for equitable rights for women and girls. And that's really what we do every day on the Scaries. So
yeah, exactly.
So who inspired us to do all of this and to even think this way and to see these gaps in our communities and in the world in general? Well, it was our built-in mentors and leaders from day one, our moms.
Yeah.
And this kind of shared idea and vision on outlook on life was really what bonded Talitha and I to this idea in the first place. We kind of had this unique air about us, this kind of personality, the certain traits, this confidence, not afraid to speak up, say when we thought things were wrong. We didn't see that in a lot of other people. So we're like, why is this? And then that's how we kind of were like, what's the common denominator?
Moms.
And it was our moms. So we're super excited to have these 2 wise ladies here with us today to share their experiences as mentees and mentors to not just us, but to so many other individuals in their communities, in our community, and their unique industries. My mom is still in education for like 50 years, and Marlene, Talitha's mom, in the healthcare system. So they're very, very well versed in the idea and the themes of leadership and mentorship.
Yeah.
And
I think also, I think just providing a little extra context, and we're going to go over their bios and all of that sort of thing. But when they went into the workforce, they had, I think, like 3 options, and it was teacher, nurse, and I don't know what the other one was. I forget. Your mom always talks about it.
Teacher, nurse, or I forget.
I don't know.
She'll say it in the interview, so
probably
we'll stay tuned.
Teacher, nurse. Anyways, as we now know, Gwen started out as a teacher and my mom started out as a nurse. So they went into these very traditional fields of these are your 3 options or 2 options for, I guess, the purpose of this example. But still within that, they found opportunities to thrive and to pursue more mentorship and leadership and kind of groundbreaking opportunities. So
exactly. Yeah. So we're super happy and lucky to have them in our lives, and privileged, honestly, to have them in our lives and to really have shaped who we are and kind of why we've created this in the first place. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here promoting this and furthering these ideas. And so because of that wisdom and that mentorship, I guess, they had for us, we're really excited for you to share and hear their wisdom and gain a little insight into what we grew up with. So
exactly. But first, let's unpack why it's important to support gender diversity and gender equity in all spaces, from workplaces, those kind of traditional workplaces, to communities at large. And what the heck does mentorship have to do with it? Well, let us explain. So first, gender equity is essential for organizations to perform at the highest levels. And I guess for just the stats that we have found, it is very like organization and business focused, just because it's a little bit difficult to survey and do research on and get those pools of people to talk to. So it is very organization based, but as we always advocate for and talk about, that you can be a leader outside of your organization in your community. So just keep that asterisk in mind. But anyways, a recent study by McKinsey & Co., management consultant, found that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on executive teams were 21% more likely to outperform on profitability. So it literally makes you more money when your company is gender diverse. The study also found that profitability at companies with extremely low levels of gender diversity lagged behind modestly diverse companies. Making a few steps toward a diverse workplace can improve an organization's performance. Like just a couple steps, and you can truthfully make 21% more. You're 21% more likely.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. The same report finds that advancing women's equality could add $12 trillion to global GDP by 2025.
12 trillion by 2025. That's next year.
Yeah. Trillion. And if that wasn't enough to sell you, an examination on the impact on stock performance of women's presence on corporate boards found that stock prices of companies with a gender diversified board outperformed those with an all-male board, and the advantage held over 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year intervals. So like it's sustained advantage.
I don't know why, but none of these stats except for the 12 trillion aren't really shocking me. I'm like, this is obvious. Like, come on.
It's not
Why is it taking so long for us to even survey to find this data?
And it's just like the diversity of thought also. 2 minds is better than 1, and 12 minds is better than 2. And like, if you have all different mindsets within those 12 minds, imagine what you can accomplish. So like diverse boards, diverse leadership teams, all of that. So not only that, having women as decision makers helps the companies better serve female consumers and employees. The Center for Talent Innovation, a business-backed think tank, found that a diverse workforce can be a potent source of innovation, as diverse individuals are better attuned to the unmet needs of consumers or clients like themselves. For all these reasons, let's stop pretending that we, as women, don't face disproportionate barriers to leadership, skill attainment, and entering decision-making roles. If you're a regular listener of the Scaries, which I hope you are, you'll often hear our guests note confidence as the one gift they wish to grant to all women. This theme also reoccurs throughout our research on leadership. Confidence, or lack thereof, is a primary indicator of being and feeling like a leader. Sadly, a large majority of women have this trait and still struggle with it from youth even into later years. That said, confidence building programs like networking opportunities, leadership training at the onset of their careers, belonging to a team or feeling like you belong, and the encouragement of role models and mentors can offer women the support they need to build their confidence and truly believe in their leadership abilities, which is why mentorship and sponsorship is so important.
Truly music to my ears, honestly. This is exactly what we say every day in all of our programs, our training, our Scaries, our everything. So, want to know why women mentoring women specifically is so important?
Yes, please.
Well, plain and simple, it's because it helps them gain the access to opportunities that they're missing and cultivates their confidence in an most often still male-dominated business environment and still, very much still, patriarchal society. So women need to lean on each other. They need to support each other, pull each other up, so then they can feel like they are supported and not by themselves fighting this fight.
It's like pulling it out of the old boys club.
Yeah. So what is a mentor and what's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? Those are two terms that often you think they're the same thing, or maybe sponsors like, what is that? Something you get money for? No, we're going to define the difference between them, and they're both very important. So a mentor is a person who gives a protege advice. They answer questions, they strategize career moves and professional development. So it's those one-on-one meetings, lots of talking, lots of discussions, could be formal or informal, structured program, non-structured, but it's really just the advice giving. It's really a lot of that is often led by the mentee based on what they're looking for.
Yeah, you come with like not a problem, but maybe a problem or a project or something.
Yeah, like what are your goals? What are you looking for, and how can they help you? Yeah, in what ways? The sponsor, on the other hand, is someone who promotes So it doesn't just like advise, they promote a protege to other people. So they talk about them, not just in their meetings, outside of their meetings to help advance the protege's career. So one way to remember the distinction between a sponsor and a mentor is a mentor talks to you, a sponsor talks about you to powerful people when you aren't in the room.
And like in a positive way.
In a positive way, obviously. Yes. And so this could be a reference. This could be someone who works with you in your own organization that helps you, move up the chain or, get into more rooms or more tables. But yeah, the big difference is really I would say, a little bit more skin in the game when it comes to a sponsor. You're taking your advice and taking it externally and really putting your own reputation on the line because you're supporting them in a very public way. So sponsorship is kind of like phase 2 of mentorship. And often the goal is mentorship to spawn into sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So once you work together, a mentor and a mentee have worked together for a long time, usually at least a few months, the mentor may see the evidence of growth and the self-accountability in the mentee. And at that point, they can become an actual advocate for them. Right. And in this capacity, the mentor is now their sponsor and the mentee is the protege. And then it's a little bit different of a relationship. And the sponsor does more than just shares their experiences and knowledge. Like I said, the sponsor has to come to feel personally invested in the advancements of the protege. And the sponsor expands that person's visibility within the organization or outside the organization, models that behavior, self-advancing behavior, and directly involves the protege in experiences that will provide opportunities for career advancement. So it's very much about career or like reputation advancement. So for instance, a sponsor may put their protege's name on the table for a promotion or have the power to advocate for their work when they're not in the room or make sure they're invited to important meetings or sing their praises to others as a personal reference if the mentee is looking at a new job. The sponsor can do so many different things, but it's really putting their reputation and their professional branding behind the protege, meaning there's typically, like I said, more skin in the game. And this is why sponsorship is more likely to develop from the basis of a strong and effective mentorship relationship first.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, you could probably understand that this would be very, very beneficial and very, very supportive for a person to receive mentorship and, of course, sponsorship. But the question is, what is the overall impact of having and being a mentor or a sponsor for that person who's doing it? What are the hard impact numbers?
What's in it for me?
Yeah, exactly. That's always the whiffum. What's in it for me? Well, and you can tell that obviously we love numbers, so we're going to drop some more stats for you. Regardless of demographic and whether you're a mentor or a mentee, mentorship programs accelerate your career. Point blank, period. According to our research, employees with workplace mentors are promoted 5 times more often than their non-mentored peers, feel empowered by the relationships at a rate of 87%, are more confident in their abilities, that confidence, and are more likely to stay with their company. Retention and promotions increased from 15% to 38%.
Interesting. I wonder if this data is based on mentors and mentees who are in the same business or just the fact that the mentor and the mentee have someone else in the community to support them.
I feel like it's probably within the same business, but it would be really interesting to survey people who just overall have a mentor in their lives, because I know that you do outside of your work, all of that kind of thing. So yet, as of 2023 data, only 37% of women have had a career mentor, which is not very much. And in the last year, only 27% of companies in the US have implemented mentoring programs. So we see the benefit, and yet no one's really doing anything about it. And less than half of remote and hybrid companies offer mentorship programs, which is a definite downside for working moms who say that remote work is a big draw. The challenge of finding mentors for women is a simple numbers game. About 71% of mentors choose mentees who look like them. That's a huge problem when men outnumber women leaders.
Right.
This disparity also makes it tough to match ambitious women with high talent female leaders, especially for the 80% of mentees who want to be mentored by someone who has taken a similar career path to them. More than half of mentors are women. More than half. But men are in the majority of leadership positions. The unfortunate reality is that if men refuse to mentor women, it will prolong gender inequality in the workplace.
I believe it.
It's also important to note that in a Together survey of 50 plus North American companies, 68% of mentees said having a mentor from the same background was important to them. But same, quote unquote, doesn't have to mean same gender. A study at UCLA revealed that women only prefer to be mentored by other women when they don't know the mentor. If they have a male colleague they respect, they're fine with a male mentor. It's just, yeah, I mean, I could 100% see that. It's
I get
just
that
like,
too. I'm like, if it's a random guy I don't know, I'm like,
it doesn't feel
thanks.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
know. Men who mentor women have a positive effect on gender equity in workplaces as well. We always say this, that we need men, we need all folks to be involved in these challenges. Male leaders can help women learn new skills and break down barriers to advancement. In addition, company leaders have a lot to gain from mentoring women, including stronger leadership skills and a crucial perspective on diversity in the workplace. But of course, today is not about the men in our lives. It's about the women.
So we're super excited today to have two of our very own built-in mentors and leader role models in our lives, our moms.
Yay!
So we have Gwen, this is my mom, and Marlene, Talitha's mom. And first we want to tell you a little bit about the trees from which we fell. So Gwen grew up in Southwest Saskatchewan on a farm and is delighted to return to rural roots where she's the CEO of Weyburn Catholic School Division. Her school system has a family feel and is connected strategically across Canada and the US. She has been a CEO in education for 25 years and has 2 master's degrees and has been connected to the University of Regina since the 1970s as a student, a sessional, and a senator. Woo. Her best title, though, is grandma to 5 awesome grandkids, including my little ones.
Yes, I agree. And I have the absolute pleasure to introduce my mama, Marlene, who is a retired registered nurse and practiced nursing for over 45 years, serving in a variety of leadership positions in nursing, health, and education. She has practiced nursing in all domains in a variety of settings in Canada, Papua New Guinea, and Qatar. She has served on several international, national, and provincial boards and committees. She enjoys gardening and traveling with her husband, Dr. George Smedu, and her 3 amazing children, including me, and 2 grandbabies, Finley and Haven, Haven being my son. So welcome, Mom.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're very excited to have you. I know that you are both avid listeners to the podcast, so you know that we do rapid fire questions with our guests. So we are going to throw these to both of you, and we hope that you answer as rapidly as they're supposed to be fired. So the first question is, Gwen, best piece of advice that you've ever received?
My grandma said, Gwenny, just get an education. They cannot take that away from you. And where she came from, Poland, they did take everything away from her. And when she grew a Rhodes Scholar, my godfather life happened in a different way because of that. But a newer, more recent advice is don't let the old girl out. Don't let the old girl out.
What does that mean?
Don't let the old girl out as an advice monster.
Oh.
Because the generations that I have lived through in education and leadership are within those contexts. And the answer is more asking better questions to get better answers for you.
Oh, that's great advice.
Interesting.
I love that. Better questions to get better answers. And Mama, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Well, I've been given lots of advice, and some of it is very traditional, like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that kind of thing. But the one that I think has really lasted for me is this is not dress rehearsal. So the idea that this is your life. So do exciting things, be courageous, try different things. Don't ever miss an opportunity because you'll regret missing the opportunity more than you will have taken it and maybe even not being successful.
Yeah.
I love that. Be intentional. If this is not a practice round, like
That's
this
right,
is life.
yeah.
You'd only get one.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
You're never going to get out alive, as they say.
And another point I would make is fly while you still have wings.
Good point.
Do it. Well, you still
All
have
the
wings.
wisdom.
Yeah. This is why we hang out with them so much. The next question is, I'll send it to you, Mom, first. If you could choose to have started out your career when you did or now in 2024, what would you pick and why?
This is a really tough question because I loved everything I did in my life. So I started my career in nursing in the 70s. I mean, the 70s was really an exciting time. And we headed off to Papua New Guinea like naive little babies in our careers and did really exciting things. So I think I would say when it happened.
Nice.
Nice.
No
I love
regrets.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Chris,
awesome.
they say.
Ditto for sure. Absolutely. I wouldn't give up my past approach at all. I think growing up again in the 70s, it was simpler then. We were more connected then in a more, I think, authentic way. And it was an opportunity for us to really know our community. And we weren't competing with the world. We were really, if you were going to be a woman and you wanted to move forward, you had about 3 or 4 choices only, right?
Yeah.
And if you decided to work hard, you could get whatever you want, really, if you worked hard. And that's really all it took.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't change that for the world.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the point about connectivity and about how you felt
Yeah.
more connected, but in a realer way, right?
Yeah.
Because now we have so many ways to connect with people all the time, every
In
day,
every
every
way,
second,
yeah.
but it's not really that authentic
Mm-mm.
in most cases.
Yeah,
So,
not as like truly connected.
Right.
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay, last but not least, Gwen, what is your scary?
My scary is, what kind of a world can I help my grandchildren thrive in? Not just survive, but thrive in. And particularly the scary around AI.
What scares you about AI?
AI is going to be a test for democracy itself in terms of who's going to own it and who's going to control it. I think it has tremendous possibilities for us from the point of view in my world of education. Every child can have their own personal tutor. Every teacher can have their own agenda for lesson planning. It's fabulous. But the destruction piece of this could be something else. It will flatten jobs and take them completely away. It will grow new jobs. So to be able to be nimble, I want girls of the future particularly to be where men are as they're leading already in AI. And if we can do that, we can change the world with the context that will exist for us.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are scared of it. And so it's understanding the power and then using it for good and not evil.
Embedding it with some compassion, right? Which is what women's leadership in that area would do.
Well, and you make a good point about having more women, because we know there's an underrepresentation of women in
Yeah.
STEM. So
Yeah.
obviously that goes into hand in hand with AI. So we need more women in the development of AI and the growth of it, so that we make sure it's used for good and not evil.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Mom, what is your scary?
Well, Skylar, your comment just leads into my scary. I thought about this a lot. My scary is the fundamental meanness and maybe even evil that exists now. Maybe has always existed, but it's almost like people have permission to demonstrate it.
Right.
And to me, that's going to be a huge challenge for humanity overall. Is we can choose to be kind. People say you can take that approach. Why do people choose to be unkind? Why do they choose to be mean? What's going on? And if it's trauma in their lives or whatever, we need to understand that, because it's going to affect everybody in the world. And you see it in the media every day. But you also see it on the ring road when you're traveling and people give you the finger because they don't like how fast you're going or not going or whatever, right? I just think it just seems to me in my face all the time. And so then it relates to what you said, Gwen. What does that mean for our children and our grandchildren and the lives that you're going to continue to live? I mean, I've lived a long time, and I can kind of just say, okay, that's them, not me. What is that saying? I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off of me and sticks to you or whatever. But think about our little kids, and growing up in that environment. Anyway, that's a scary for me, and I think it's something we need to address.
Well, and it's just amplified with technology, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just the people who you live with or you go to school with, it's everyone around the world who can get at you and impact you in a positive or negative way. So
Yeah.
Absolutely validate that in my work in education. We find right across the country, there's more misbehaving adults, and the intensity of what we see in classrooms is ridiculous. And I don't know whether part of it is from COVID and people have such dysfunction as root sources, but it's very much that a whole aspect of the need for emotional intelligence, emotional agility, resiliency, and how we can address these things. And I think women particularly have, more difficulty addressing really heavy duty conflict. I think we all have to learn more about how to address these very aggressive, very uncomfortable situations in new and different and fresh ways.
I think especially online, so many people they have that permission, as you said, that to just be as aggressive as they want to be. And it's really easy to stoop down to a level and say, well, no, and then start, these fighting. And that's
I mean, I know that that's any bully, anybody wants that. They want that reaction. And so
Yeah.
it's hard not to engage in that way and continue to fuel it. So now on to the real questions, as we call them.
Yes, on the topic of intergenerational leadership and mentorship, which is exactly what we're all about at Raise Her Community and why we started this with our moms. So first question to you is, Mom, what motivated you to become a mentee and a mentor throughout your life? And how did you get started in those roles?
I had a magnificent role model. The name of the woman was Florine York.
Yeah.
And as she worked with us as young teachers, she taught us the craft of the work, but she taught us the art of leadership by all the little things were the big things: how to dress, how to talk, how to deal with these conflict situations and these awkward situations with men. So I watched this magnificent mentor help me move up the ladder in almost doing what I would define to be the unofficial rules of Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like how do you navigate what's under the water? What are the nuances that we have? So having this magnificent mentor motivated me to give back. And whether, unfortunately, men came to me first for mentorship and very, very much wanting to work with me. And I have a lot of little brothers because of that.
Yeah.
Women tended to be, I had to go after them.
Interesting.
And that was an interesting piece because he tended to stand back. Men were more assertive and aggressive. Okay, I want to learn that thing. Or how do you do that? The women I had to go after and say, hey, did you ever think about, why don't you think about that one? So it was a motivation from a magnificent role model.
Why do you think women didn't want to stand up at that time and say, oh yeah, hey, I'll learn from you? Like, what do you think it was that you needed to pull it out of them? Just the generation, or?
No, I think it was to do with the fact that they were preoccupied perhaps with other things in part. I think that they probably a little bit of imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough. Like one example would be golf. I mean, how can we so many decisions are made on the golf course and still there's a heavy dominance of men.
Yeah.
If a woman goes golfing with a woman, no big deal. But if a woman your boss is a man and you're going golfing with them, that's a different dynamic than if two men are going out there.
Yeah.
So there's many unwritten rules here that we need to be able to break barriers. How can we do these things in different ways that don't cause any other negativity? So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And yeah, I think that's just like a part of women being, I don't want to say allowed, but like allowed to be more confident, allowed to be more aggressive and it not seeing as bossy and all those types of things. So,
Well,
And I think it goes with the imposter syndrome a little bit. But I think as I think of what you're talking about, and I've had that experience, women in more executive positions would be afraid to ask others for mentorship because it would be deemed that they didn't know what they were doing, which is kind of like the imposter syndrome. But it's like, I should be absolutely independent and autonomous. And we know that never works for anybody. It doesn't matter what position you have as a CEO. Who do you have to consult with? Who do you need to, get their perspective from? So I think that part has gone a little bit. I think people are more likely to ask now.
Yeah. There's just strength in asking for help for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
and whether
huge.
it's like actually help, like I need help doing this task, or like I need more education, I need to keep learning. There's definitely strength in that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a hallmark of leadership, right? You don't know
Exactly.
everything.
That's
right.
It's all about
Totally.
continuous learning and working with people, with your team, not just
Yeah.
making all decisions yourself. So
Yeah.
really interesting.
So, Mom, I know you've had a lot of mentorship and mentee different experiences. You've been a mentor and been a mentee. Can you share a memorable mentoring relationship that you've had and how that influenced both of you in the relationship?
Yeah, I've had lots, and I've been really fortunate because I always learn as much as I'm sure the mentee does. And certainly when I've been mentored, I know that it's been mutually beneficial. But I thought of this one, and it comes out of my nursing background, but it was a young nurse who was participating in the master's program in nursing, and I was teaching the leadership course. And the very first day, she worked in clinical practice, which is the heart of nursing. It's exactly to be valued. But she came in and she sat with her arms crossed. And so we were doing introductions and talking about, anyway, why you're there. And then she said, well, I don't know why I'm here, because obviously this is just for managers and I'm just a nurse, right? Okay, so that just sends fireworks. So that was the beginning of our relationship. And through that course of talking about leadership is for everybody and why in a very whitewater dynamic environment, the clinical nurses have even more responsibility to be leaders. And how do you support them in that? This is not about how to do budgets. This is about how to be a leader. And so she definitely mellowed. Anyway, she asked me to be her thesis supervisor, and she didn't have a lot of background, like an academic background, like you might have if you have worked in other roles. And so her writing was really needed a lot of work. And I remember George saying to me, like, I'd be coming home because I work better on a thesis, when it's printed. I'd be coming home with these big packages, and he'd say, "Oh, that's X again." And I'd say, "Yep, and we would go through this. I bet you she did, 15 big drafts of her thesis. Very good topic. She was absolutely what she needed to do. But anyway, got her ready, got the thesis accepted. She went to the defense. It was the best defense I've ever witnessed
Wow.
at either the master's or the PhD level. Like, I was there with my jaw open. And I had seen her growth, but it was just like it had all, sort of come together at that. And it was something she was really passionate about. It was actually a model of care for delivering care in the units, perfectly applicable to what she was doing. Anyway, as I reflect back on that relationship, and she's gone on to do really amazing things, but I thought after, it was only confidence that she was lacking, maybe some competence in some areas, but not as a nurse, because it was, her writing needed work, and that instilling confidence in her, for me, she demonstrated all of the reasons that we needed to work more closely with nurses who were doing clinical practice all the time. And I would say I was her unconditional support. I mean, everybody that's going through a thesis process at some point in time is going to give up, or I wouldn't let her, kept at her, and took her a long time, but she did it. And so I think what happens out of a good mentee relationship, or good mentoring relationship, is that both learn, for sure. I got much better at, I think, being a mentor and listening and understanding the long journey and all of that. And her confidence, as soon as her confidence peaked, then there was nothing stopping her. It was an amazing experience. And I mean, I've had many, especially within nursing, but I would say that was the one that still sticks with me.
That confidence piece. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Confidence and connections is definitely what women lack in terms of not every woman lacks, but that's a big piece of being a leader, showing up as a leader. And so, interesting that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So Mom, this question's for you. And you mentioned kind of the lack of women in your past that would come to you to ask you to be their mentor. So what is your advice then for those women, or for women in the next generation, to find and ask someone to be their mentor?
I think you have to really be present and open and visible. I mean, I can give you an example. I dealt with a women in leadership operation last week with leads, and you have to be, they have to feel that you want to be there to support. I think everybody has strengths. Not all strengths. And I think you have to be really comfortable with the fact that, what are your strengths? Like, I am highly strategic, and I'm not saying that just because I think I am, but I mean, I've got the assessments many times over to say that I am highly strategic, but I'm also highly introverted. And you don't need to have all the strengths. You just need to have people around you that can make for the strengths that you don't have. It's like the rabbit and the hare thing. You're not going to make that turtle into a great hare no matter how much you teach the friggin' turtle. The turtle's still going to be a friggin' turtle. Yeah. So when you speak, you share these kinds of things with women and say, hey, you don't need to have it all, because I think there's this perfection thing.
Yeah, it is.
That women more than men, women think they got to have it all, and it's got to be perfect. Yeah. No, it's got to be perfect. The men will dive in. Half of it they don't know and they don't care, because they're going to dive in. They're going to take the risks, and they're going to do whatever they do. Women are going to be much more prepared. So you need to state those things. You need to say those things. I will be recognized this week in Saskatoon at a different leads thing for 50 years. Kill me for 50 years. Oh,
you're barely 30
years
Gwen.
Of education, for heaven's sake. But anyway, what I'm going to do is really honor one of the women that is retiring there. And I know in her humility, she will want to go out the back door, and she is not going to be comfortable with what I'm going to say. But the reality is, you need to, as we are doing, raise her. We need to raise people up, because she, in her humility, is just fine to go out the back door. And as an introvert, I know exactly what I would like to do the same thing. But you can't let them go. You need to be able to celebrate that and say it in front of men as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I'll do another piece with another mentee who happens to be male and has had a rough time with the community for a whole bunch of reasons. And I think being brave enough to lay it out right in front of the whole works of these leaders and say, sorry, but this is excellence beyond compare. And you'll be specific about what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So just to go deeper into that, we talk about in some of our statistics that when you look for a mentor, oftentimes we look for someone who's very similar to us, has a similar strength, similar personality type, all of that. So, and as you mentioned, you can't, you have your strengths. So is your thought to go for a mentor that has different strengths from you to then help build those ones that you don't have, or go for someone who's similar to you?
The easy answer is to go with somebody like-minded like you, because then, you've got common interests and common skill sets and all this. But there is a lot of research out of there just to add to your team and add to your challenges, somebody that thinks quite differently. Like, I know if I'm hanging around with an extrovert, okay, you know what, we're going to be doing life differently. And it's going to make me a little more uncomfortable. I need to feel continuous learning is about what this is all about.
Right.
And you learn so much. So I would definitely really recommend a lot of typology assessments so that you have a much better idea of what things, and then do some speed dating. Speed dating deal. But don't go looking for somebody exactly like you that you can cuddle up to and, try and find somebody quite different and learn from each other. Very much so.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that for so many people, when they're seeking a mentor and first you see someone who's like-minded as you, so you're like, that's the person I want. And then you just go hard and date them fully. You're ready to get engaged and married, and you don't try out a few different things. So I think that's have a few different conversations, have a few different coffees, see what fits and see what makes
well, just a comment from my long-standing mentee. He said, Gwen, for being such a smart woman, you are really stupid. And I said, yes, you know what, Curtis, I am. But you know what? That's why I got you. Have the skills. I'm not even going to learn those skills.
Yeah.
I am not going to learn those skills. I've got those skills, these skills. And in our team, we've got this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I know I can get better in there, but I'm never going to be as good as you in that one.
Yeah. And I don't need to. You're doing it.
Guess what?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. I don't need to do that, and I don't care. I think one of the biggest challenges for folks, and I've been in a paired mentorship situation where we were matched based on, I think, personality within a workplace, that we went in and I was super excited to be matched with this person. And then we had nothing to go on, and we had we chit chatted, but I didn't really know how to come prepared with, I was supposed to come with a problem, but was it a personal problem? And and then our conversation kind of went nowhere. And then I don't really think she got anything out of it, and I didn't really get anything out of it. And so it was just a whole thing. So, which is why one of the big reasons why with the She's Here mentorship program that we co-founded, that it's a problem that we come with and a project that you work on. So my question to you is, how do you measure the success of a mentorship partnership and a mentorship relationship? And do you have any tips on kind of how to go into a relationship like that?
Well, I think the literature would tell you that the best mentorship programs are ones that are sort of organic and granular. So what Gwen was saying, somebody comes to her and says, would you be my mentor? And I'll put it right now, you should always have more than one mentor.
Yes.
And you should have mentors for different reasons. So sometimes you pick a mentor that's doing something that you want to be doing. So when I first went to government, I looked around for people, and it was particularly women that were doing things in the public service, because I was new to government, and really went to them. They were not my supervisors or weren't evaluating me. It was sort of stress-free in that way. But went to them to say, how do you maneuver this? And how do you maneuver that? And what do you think I should do about that? So, but I've always had multiple mentors. And sometimes your mentor is somebody that you might not even talk to for 5 years. Like I had a mentor out of Ontario that she did a lot of work with me at one point in time. And then we sort of just were like friends. And then I went back to her and said, look, I need some mentorship on this next piece. So keep that in mind, that you should be voluntarily seeking mentors. Sometimes we did matched programs in nursing for a while, but we did more like what you're doing with She's at the table. She's here at the table, like that. That there's a bit of a choice amongst that, but we kind of made the pools confined so that there was some people available to be mentors. And then when you're when you, as the mentee, are looking for a mentor, then you should have goals about what you want to accomplish, and there should be mutually agreed upon objectives. I mean, even including, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do it by phone? Do you want to meet for coffee? Are you better if we just, meet once a month by coffee, or for coffee? And then what do you want to have accomplished? So I've a pretty recent mentee who said to me, you were on the board of the International Council of Nurses. I don't know anything about nursing in the international context. These are the things I want to know, not the things that I can find on the website, but how do you maneuver managing people or working with people in different languages and the different cultures that come out at the board tables and whatever. And then so we met virtually 4 or 5 times. And I said to her, do you think you have what you need? And she said, yeah, but I'm going to be back to you once I'm doing some international nursing. I'm going to have some more questions. So I think understanding what your objectives are, understanding what you need that mentor for at that point in time. And it might be different. And hopefully you have other people. So you've got the mentor that's going to do the things that are going to stretch you and make you feel uncomfortable and, whatever. And you're going to have the mentor that's going to be very like-minded and just help you grow in whatever that path is. And then from the mentor's point of view, I think you need to do the check. Did you get from this relationship what you needed?
Right.
Are there things I could have done differently or better? Did you need some different information? Did you need being connected with other people that I hadn't thought about? And you don't always come out of the relationships as friends, but you should come out of it as this person has always got my back. Yeah. The mentee should always feel that mentor has his or her back.
I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning from this conversation, but also hopefully everyone does in everything that we do, is that it's not all on the so-called mentee, and it's not all on them to do everything.
Work, yeah.
It's that exactly what intergenerational leadership and mentorship is that everyone, it's a two-way street. It's a tango, that it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And that if you are asked to be a mentor, that there is work involved in that, and that you have a responsibility to show up for people. And then it's not, I'm just going to impart my wisdom on you and then you go take away and do it with what you want. It's that there's both learning, and that you will get something as a mentor out of it as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that you have to look for local guides, whatever your problem is. We here with Razor is particularly dealing with reconciliation, as white middle class. That's some of the challenges are. Where are your local guides who have the power and the respect in the community? And to authentically connect and be tight with local guides. Doesn't matter what the problem is. Can you find a local guide that really is perceived by that community or that problem or that situation as being respected and honored? And go back to Marlene, wonderful work around novice to expert in nursing, and that whole aspect of who is noted in your craft, in your position as being an expert, and the authorization you get when you're dealing with local guides. So local guide, I'm always on the hunt. If I'm in a new world, who's the local guide in it here? It might not be the position.
That's exactly right.
At all.
Yeah.
It might very much be that Hazel sitting at the back of the room that really controls everything.
Yeah.
You got to be aware of the nuances and the body language and the tone of the operation. I think women are much better at that. They can feel and sense where the power is.
The other point I would make, and you made me think about this, is that I have never asked anybody to be a mentor, nor have I ever been asked by someone to be a mentor that there was a refusal. So people do need to be tapped on the shoulder. And when we were starting some mentoring within the nursing profession for new graduates, we kind of did this general call to the experienced nurses, the expert nurses, and nobody came forward. I said, just wait. I know who's out there. Donna, we would really like you to be a mentor for these new graduates. This is what you would have to offer. And she goes, oh, well, of course I will.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared to do a little shoulder tapping. I think even as an organization you do, but as individuals, to say, I see in you something that would be really valued to me or to somebody else who needs mentoring.
Right.
But I've never had a refusal. I don't know if you have, Gwen, if anybody has ever refused. Yeah.
No, I think you have to go back to what's your compelling why before you go to the what and the how and all the techniques. What's your why? What's your motivation and agenda? And I really believe in hard goals. And the first piece of an H of a hard goal is what's heartfelt, what's passionate about what your goal is that you want. And once you know that, and then the A is that automation of what does it look like? Can you put it in front of you? Can you draw a picture of it? How does it look? And the R is required. That is kind of essential for for whether it's continuation of your job or your craft or whatever it is. And D, it's going to be difficult. Else we would have done it already. So hard goals.
Yeah.
I like that. That's
Interesting.
Great point.
All of this talk around mentors and how valuable they are brings me to the idea of connections and how essential that is in leadership. And we think about what's on our resume. And this is what I'm thinking about. It's like, why don't we put our mentors on our resume?
Yeah.
Think about all
that's
the
a great idea.
valuable education and the lived experience that you get from a mentor. And really, you're more than just you. You are your network, right?
Yes.
People aren't just buying you. They're buying who you're
That's
connected
a brilliant
to.
idea. I
Yeah.
love
So
it. Yeah.
that is my advice for you. And I'm going to do that is start putting my
Yeah.
mentors. These are the people I'm connected to. These are the people in my circle of influence.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that they've done. So have some
secret
insight.
board of advisors,
Right?
if you
I'm
will,
actually busting with excitement as you mentioned this whole aspect of networking, because the technology's allowed us to, whatever your area is, and I'll just give you an illustration with mine. So I'm connected across Canada with CEOs in K-12 education. And I mean, it was really nice to see with Women's Day the other day to see our pictures right across the country. Yeah. But my point is, I can pick up the phone, I can email these guys, and they can be those situational mentors. And when I come out of a conference call we have once a month with these guys, I am floating, and the staff look at me. Oh God, she's had another one of those. But I mean, it energizes you. You get connectivity, and then I looked the other day and said, "Oh my God, this is tied into LinkedIn and all this stuff." You have no idea when you tap into these different networks where it's going to go.
Exactly.
And it's just so energizing.
Well, and Skylar, I mean, I love it. There should be a category about, either my network or my mentors or whatever. And you start to put down the people that you, in a sense, can pick up the phone and have a chat with.
Right.
Any employer would say, oh my gosh, look at all these resources we can tap into. Look at the wisdom that's coming there.
Yeah.
Instead of references, mentors.
Yeah, I love it.
That's what we have. Okay, let's get back to the questions. We can talk about this all day long. This is probably going to be a long episode, just an FYI. Yeah. So this question's for you, Mom. What challenges have you faced as a mentor, if any, and how did you overcome them?
I think it's partly a time commitment, you may as well know front end. It goes back to what you were saying, Marlene. Let's look at how are we going to do this? What's the how of this? And let's look at the little things that people forget, that typically where you break down pieces. So, breaking down these goals into little pieces and taking the low hanging fruit and really celebrating those. So time commitment, is definitely probably the biggest thing that I've seen from both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think, celebrating those small successes of where you've gone. And I mean, some of these things, you have to know the long end game too, and break it down and say, can I really handle all of this? Because like one of my mentors, I mean, we end up being in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame as part of the mentorship program we had to deal with. And so you have to be able to say, can I do all this? And really be honest with both sides of it. That would be the biggest thing.
Okay, that's good.
So I think that for so many people, that if they are going to say no or anything, I mean, and you said that really happens to be a mentor, but like, what is your legacy? What are you going to be passing down? Because you have one life. It's not a dress rehearsal, all of that type of thing. You're just going to take all of this knowledge and all of this imparted wisdom and where are you going to put it? Like you might as well share the wealth and encourage other folks, and especially younger folks. But I mean, as we know, it's intergenerational. You can impart wisdom onto anybody, share it, and keep the ecosystem alive and well and continue to grow, because we're only better as we learn from each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mom, then my question is, obviously there are some challenges and it takes time and all that kind of thing, but in what ways has being a mentor helped you grow personally and or professionally?
Oh, for sure. So for sure, I'm a better listener. Because Gwen, you nailed it when you said, you have a particular personality type. I'm an extrovert. I would love to be giving people solutions and, I know what you mean. I'm going to tell you what to do. And so I've learned to be a much better listener. Most people that you work with, especially if it's a specific problem, actually have a pretty good idea about what the solution is. So you need to listen, active listen, probing, whatever, and reinforce and I guess help them to gain the confidence and the competence that what they're doing is right. I've learned a lot from the people that I've mentored. So I've tried to then instill that in other people and other relationships. So I found often that I was connecting two of my mentees together.
Yeah.
So I've recognized, I don't have all the answers for sure, but boy, these two, they're the same generation. And I've worked with both of them. And you know what? Maybe you could be, it doesn't even have to be a mentoring relationship. It could be a peer relationship, and maybe you'd help each other. So I've learned to look for other places for resources. And I've learned to be comfortable when it ends. And it doesn't, so sometimes you just don't want to lose that kind of connection because you feel like, oh, I'm so helpful. But when they've grown up and leave home and out of the nest, that you need to say it was meant to be. It wasn't, somebody else will come along. I always learned a lot, and every mentee is different. I had one of the mentees I had, and he specifically asked if I would be his mentor, was a male nursing student. I met him when he was a nursing student, but I didn't actually teach him. And then he went on, graduated, was practicing. And he used to say to me, can I have your cell phone number? Can I call you? And when he called, I answered. I mean, I could be in the middle of something else, because that was his personality type that he needed. And most of the time it was reassurance. It was very rarely, once in a while it was, is it okay to even do this as a nurse? But and so I've also learned to try to be more spontaneous. I tend to be somebody that would like to schedule and plan, but if that spontaneity is there and I really try to respond to that. So I've learned a lot.
I feel like it's always that reciprocal learning, right? You can't get away from it. And that's what leadership's all about too. So there you go. It's all hand in hand.
I really strongly have learned that asking more questions, I mean, there's a lot of strategies out there where, one of the most recent books I've read is questions are the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
And, because I find intergenerationally, if I get on my advice box, I've learned this from my children, just to say, they'll say, well, that was good. Whatever got you here is not going to get you there, and just because, all of that was at that time within that context. So I think contextual literacy matters,
right,
as you deal with where you're going here, and lots of very strategic questions. There's one concept called a question burst, which is a strategy to help dig out questions. I'm not getting into it, we don't have time, but if you Google that, you'll find it a really tight strategy to help you be that better listener.
Yeah.
Better questions, better answers.
So on that note, Mom, what advice would you give to someone who's considering becoming a mentor? Not looking for a mentor, becoming one themselves, especially to other women. How do they find mentees? Where do they start?
I think, first of all, going within your qualifications of your own job, and because looking around, where's the need? Look at where need is. Not only need in your particular position, but need within the context of the pain points that exist within that position currently, and being able to share visibly that, you've got some new skills, some new talents that, is anybody interested in wanting to learn those? We go to a lot of conferences. I know, Marlene, you've been to lots of them, and I've been to, and you come back with all kinds of information. You read lots, you have lots of experiences, but you've got to let people know these things. That's why, I've got a couple principals in Florida right now, and they are spitting out of their mind with excitement of ideas and suggestions and everything else. But coming back, you need to be able to, nurture those people, and explain those. So model what you want to see more of. Grow other mentors, and then mentoring becomes a culture. So having one, exactly. Because sometimes women feel they're too humble. They don't want to be doing that. But if it becomes a culture of this is how we do business in our organization, then it's not a problem, right?
For sure.
It becomes a normal, permeated approach to how we do life in this workplace.
I love that it just becomes a normal part. Like this is just everyone is sharing. Yeah, everyone's sharing knowledge. We're always asking questions. We're always growing and being better. So, Mom, in your opinion, how does mentorship contribute to the development of strong leaders?
I think Razor Co is a perfect example of that. That the very beginning, and you were both very articulate about the fact that leadership was not a position or a role. It was about action, really about demonstrating to others how to support them and being leaders. And that's really the definition of mentorship, is supporting other people, recognizing, Gwen, you've said that sometimes you had to encourage people who didn't come to you to say, look, I can help you. And that's kind of what Razor Co does, is saying all comers, we're non-judgmental. what we can offer, if we can't offer it individually, we'll find somebody that can offer it. The mentoring program is a very good example of that. We didn't have the ability to mentor in the way that the mentors did. And the Raise Her Co to me is all about creating that culture that everybody should feel comfortable asking if they need specific assistance, or coming into an environment where they're going to see the opportunities and the support that they get from other women, and for other women and people who support women to say, we're here for you. Like, you don't have to worry about competition or, feeling like you don't have, what we know. We're going to support you in whatever way is possible. I think Raise Her Co is a perfect example. And if that culture then can be embedded in organizations, which could happen through the Rise Academy and through, you start to, it will be a bit of a ripple effect, hope, maybe not even a trickle effect, but a gush effect once it starts, because people will see this is a much healthier environment, either in an organization or in a workplace.
God, you're such a good spokesperson.
Yes.
It's not even a paid advertisement. That's great.
Okay, so Mom, this question's for you. What is the impact of women mentoring women specifically? You mentioned you've had female mentors and mentees and male, but what specifically is the skill development and impact that you see when women mentor other women?
It tells the community, we're strong together here.
Yeah.
And we're a force. We may be pretty, but we can manage a hurricane, let me tell you. And, the impact is a most wonderful sense of honor, of celebration, of growing together and naming it and sharing it and being very proud of it. And the more rather than being quiet and humble about it,
Right.
I think women are just too humble in many respects. And it's a fine line of how you do it. It's a fine line with even who you are dealing with as mentors, because it can be this subtle belief of favoritism and,
exactly.
that person got the air of the boss and all that. So, you have to kind of look for where your tire kickers are. If you got tire kickers, keep them real close to you. Keep them real close to you. And find out why they might be resisting this, why they might be not liking this, because they might have some other ideas for you that you need to consider. That's because we tend to not want to, if somebody's not liking this agenda or this approach we're using, you tend to kind of leave them alone and just, not have to deal. But what's their reason? What's their why? And learn from those whys.
Yeah.
And that creates that strength, I think, to move forward. So this is the right direction. The pillar's on the right wall. The ladder's absolutely on the right wall. And I think again, when Razor steps up that ladder and looks down, and says, you know what? The ladder was on the right wall.
Yeah,
totally.
I think that also, from afar, when you see women supporting women, it tends to break down this generational stereotype that we are or should be in competition with each other, and that there can only be one, and that if there are 3 women in the education field, well, only one is allowed to succeed. It just continuously breaks down this stereotype and this bias from women themselves, that that we have to have this competition. And it's like, no, I'm here to support you, and I'm here to encourage you, and I'm here to love you, and I'm here to bring you up and raise you,
right?
And all of that.
Well, and when women support other women, the ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
So then they'll support more, and when your mentee will then mentor someone else, and and goes on and on and on. And we need more women to become leaders, to get into these mentorship roles, to then see their equal representation at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So really, that's the main goal.
Yeah.
Just spreading the love.
I have to give you an example. My kid's sister has written books on this area, and one comment she would make, that if you want to really support a woman the best, and let's say for a job, the best way to do it is to have a strong woman advocate for that woman in front of men.
Yeah, that's right.
And that will do it. Of all of the different approaches that you need to have strong women advocate in arenas that matter.
Well, it's the idea of sponsorship, going beyond mentorship to being a sponsor, and actually having some skin in the game, and actually going to say, look, I want to help you get a job, and I'm going to go write you a reference, or I'm going to call someone, not just we're going to talk together one-on-one. I'm going to talk to other people about you. And that's, I think, where we talk a lot about mentorship, but not a lot about sponsorship and the actual action in the community that should result from mentorship or kind of spawns from mentorship relationships. So yeah.
So obviously mentoring and mentorship and even just relationships have evolved, especially between women, since you started work in the 70s, as you both stated. Mom, how have you seen mentorship evolve over the course of your career? And are there any trends or changes in those kind of mentoring relationships that you find particularly noteworthy?
Yeah, I don't even know whether we were specifically talking about the mentorship kind of concept when I was first in the profession, but I do tell nursing students all the time that I was very well supported when I started nursing. Our clinical units were staffed differently. I had a head nurse, an assistant head nurse, and a team leader whose ultimate jobs were to make sure I didn't fail. Like it was hilarious because they would be. So, my team leader, Miss Ellen, was fantastic. She was there for a long time. She was tough. I knew when she looked me in the eye that she had my best interests at heart. Obviously the patients, but I was going to be better for the patients if I was better. Right. Yeah. So that was more formal. Each one of them could have evaluated me. So that wasn't really it was more of a preceptorship thing, but I also knew that they wanted me to grow professionally. And every time I went off to education or did whatever, they were just my biggest cheerleaders. So that was more structured, not necessarily coming from me. I assumed that all those supports would be in place. So that was, at least in my profession. What I see now with mentorship is what we've already talked about, that the literature will say that the best kind of mentoring relationship is one where it's been sort of organic and at a very granular level, the mentee has looked around and found somebody that they would like to have as a mentor, that you would have multiple mentors.
Right.
In the apprenticeship model of education for many, many trades and professions, it was you had the one person that you stuck with sort of for your whole life, but that's not the case anymore. I think the fact that a mentoring relationship can have a defined period of time, and it's not then anybody's problem or loss, or it's recognizing that the person has moved on and needs other relationships. I think that technology has helped us because we can actually do mentoring with people all around the world, which wouldn't have happened in the past. And so you can actually tap into resources. And I think that there's more clarity if people choose to go into the literature around what we talked about earlier. So define what your objectives are, figure out how you're going to do it. What's your time? So that there's a bit more satisfaction and people understand that it might be time limited, that once goals are met, and that, again, from the mentor's point of view, it has nothing to do with that they don't need me anymore. It's that they needed me at that time, and now they've moved on to somebody else, and I'm going to look for other people, or other people are going to look for me to be in that relationship. So I think it's expanded a lot. I guess the other thing I would say is I think the concept of mentoring has expanded beyond profession specific. And that's, again, what Razor Co. does so well, is that there are people who are in positions and crafts and ways of working that don't actually have that kind of culture embedded. I would say teachers have had it, education has had it for a long time. I think nursing has. New teachers get assigned to somebody as a buddy. That's right, yep. But a lot of places don't have that. So this mentorship that we're talking about is much broader, and it's kind of cross-profession, cross-age group, cross-cultures. It's really trying to expand that whole concept, which is the right thing.
Right. Really broaden your horizons and your perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we love all of our guests, but I just really love our moms.
They're gems, of
Not
course.
Just because they're our moms. But I think what I always love from hearing from them and learning from them is that how much they have always respected and relied upon their mentees to also continue to progress their careers forward and to have that diversity of thought that we talked about and all of those things. So I just love learning from them.
Totally. And just how much they champion and always champion others.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the quintessential qualities of a leader. Right?
Exactly.
So
exactly. They're doing it.
So as always, we include each episode with things that we want to leave you with on a positive, actionable, and uplifting note.
And since we love putting you to work, we have some final challenges to you as the individual. So first, get a mentor who can hopefully turn into a sponsor. Get as many mentors as you can. Learn as much as you can. And then put that into work.
be a mentor and a sponsor. And I know that seems like such a hard thing for people, that they often don't think that they are qualified enough to be a mentor, but pull up the women who are behind you, lend your wisdom and your experience. Your lived experiences mean so much and are so valuable, and you have a lot more to offer than you probably think. And above all, if you have privilege, use it. Help open doors for other women and do your part to bring those opportunities forward. The women around you may be facing more challenges than you, and it's your responsibility to uplift all women, including women of color, trans women, and other equity deserving groups. Remember, we've only truly reached equity if we all get there together.
So lastly, we'll leave you with one last challenge to consider or to think about. Who has helped shape who you are at home and at work? You know who was it for us, but who was it for you? Take some time today to email, call, text them. There's probably more than one than there are for me, and I'm virtually the two. So let them know how impactful they've been for you, because this one small action will spawn them to likely do it for others, will probably ignite something in you to be like, that feels good.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that. And again, don't wait.
Don't wait.
Being a leader and being a mentor can start any day, and really they are one and the same. Yeah. So please don't wait. Start today. Reach out, find someone, or be someone that you wish you had.
Beautiful.
So thank you for joining us today as we confronted these terrifying but real life statistics. I don't know about terrifying, but let's say real life statistics impacting women and girls. Please share this episode, rate, subscribe wherever you're listening, and stay tuned as always for more ways to make a positive impact. Together, we can make the world less scary for women and girls.
Follow us on Instagram at RaiseHerCo and at scaries.podcast, and on TikTok at RaiseHerCo. Remember that change starts with awareness and action, which we are doing here today. Don't forget about our challenge to you. And thank you for being a part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary to exist as a woman.
Bye.
Regardless of demographic and whether you're a mentor or a mentee, mentorship programs accelerate your career. According to our research, employees with workplace mentors are promoted 5 times more often than their non-mentored peers, feel empowered by the relationships at a rate of 87%, are more confident in their abilities, that confidence, and are more likely to stay with their company. Retention and promotions increased from 15% to 38%.